Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Mission Snapshot. We have a treat today because here in the studio I have Hannah, who has been the one who has been managing the Facebook comments, and today Veronica is over taking care of the Facebook comments. So if you have any questions or concerns or just want to say thumbs up, go ahead and put it down below, and Veronica will take care of that. Also, Veronica is going to be posting some links during the show based on what it is that Hannah and I are talking about. So please keep an eye on what Veronica is going to be sharing. So Hannah, today we're going to be talking about the India TV studio, and this is a project that is near and dear to your heart, and so we are very excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So please, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess we'll start from the beginning for those who don't really know very much about the TV ministry. It got started a couple of years ago by Israel, who's our director in India. And basically what happened was one day he was invited by a friend to go speak on this other Adventist TV program, which I guess was live. And so he filmed the episode and it was on, and he was waiting in the lobby for his friend to come out so then they could leave. And the phone in the lobby rang, and he decided for some reason to pick it up.
Wow.
Which is, I don't know, to me it seems unusual, but he picked up the phone, and the person who answered the phone said, "Wow, I really enjoyed your program. It was such a blessing to me. I was so touched by it."
Wow.
And that just really hit his heart.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, if one program, can touch someone's life, and this lady wasn't even in India, she was in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
And so he's like, if this can reach someone who's in another country even,
yeah.
I want to be able to do this more. And so he talked with John about starting the ministry, and it kind of took a while, but then they were able to get started, which is really cool. So the India TV ministry isn't, it's not its own channel at the moment, but they do have programs on 2 different stations in Tamil, which is the language that they speak in Tamil Nadu, which is like the southernmost state in India, which about 80 to 100 million people throughout the world speak.
Wow.
So it's like a pretty big group of people that this covers. And the main channel that they have 2 slots a week, hour slots, I believe, a week, for them to air Christian content on this channel that is available to anybody who speaks Tamil. So it's a pretty major channel that could be going to any of these people in India, in Sri Lanka, in I think even Singapore has some Tamil speaking people, as well as the US and wherever people traveled. So so that's really cool. And then they have 1 slot every day in this local channel in a smaller town called Valpari that's up in the mountains. And so they have both of those that they're doing.
So are they getting the same kind of responses that Israel got the very first time that he did a presentation?
Yeah, it's been really cool, actually. So basically, every time they have a show, they have phone numbers up on the screen for people to call and talk to one of the JFA prayer warriors, is what they call them, which I think is a really cool name. So Israel's mom, actually, and this other woman who's a Bible worker, both answer the phone calls, and they talk to the people when they call in, and they also give Bible studies to all of whoever is interested in getting Bible studies, and they do this a lot. There's over 180 Bible studies that they give every week.
Wow. The woman who's in the photo that we're showing on the phone, that is Israel's mom. So for those of you who know Israel, that is his mother right there.
It's really cool. And they've also had over 13 baptisms come out of come out of this, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, people's lives are being really impacted, and it's, yeah.
So do you have a story or two of people who have been impacted?
Yeah, I do. So one of them, and both of these stories that I'm going to share, there are definitely more, but both of these stories I'm going to share will kind of come into play also later with how, the TV ministry has grown and stuff like that.
Right.
So this first story is about a young man named Jiva.
Okay.
And he had a good education. The life circumstances he were in were good, so he should have, been happy and had a good life.
Right.
But he, for some reason, was really depressed and basically was spending all of his time laying on his couch watching TV and had just really felt really down about life and wasn't happy, wasn't doing anything with his life. And one day he was channel surfing, and he just happened on the show. He wasn't really paying that much attention, but something caught his ear.
Wow.
And it was Israel saying, like, it's not over. Like, your life isn't over. It's just beginning. Like, there are chances for you. And he took that, like, as, like, this is just what I needed to hear.
Wow.
And so he, like, immediately, excitedly called the number on the screen and was like, this message was for me. Like, this is what I felt like this was speaking to me personally. And so he continued to watch the shows, and he, and he continued, and gradually he started to get more excited about life. He got a job running a school for agriculture, which was what his degree was in, that he hadn't been using. He was just super excited, and his family could start to tell, and they're like, what's going on? I don't understand. And he's like, I want to be like Jesus. I want to be happy.
Wow.
And so he tried to start getting them to watch it, and it took a little while, but eventually he got his father to start watching it too, and his father was like, wow, I can see why you're enjoying this so much, why it's impacting you. And he, they started, they were doing Bible studies over the phone with the prayer warriors and stuff like that. And his dad was like so touched by this that he took a train 500 kilometers away to the location where they film their shows. And he was able to meet Israel and his mom, and John was there too that weekend and share his testimony and how much like God changed. And so they, their family got baptized, and just their quality of life just improved so much, and it was really cool.
So in the picture that has been on the screen, or is right now, the gentleman in the middle is Jiva's father.
Yes.
Because you recognize John, and then there's Israel's mom on the other side. So that's why this picture is up, even though we're talking about Jiva, because that's his dad.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Cool. So I know from experience as well that when we were in India last year in 2019, we went to Valpari where the other show is aired on the local station there. And Valpari is in the tea plantation area, and it's way up on a mountainside, and it's not easily accessible by people.
No, it takes like 3 hours to get there.
Exactly. It takes a long time to get there because the roads do switchbacks all the way up the mountain. And so this is not a place that's going to be easily accessible for these people to kind of drop into a church or anything like that. So the photo that's on the screen right now is a picture of the Valpari church in the Sabbath we were there. And Brother John, who is a Jesus for Asia Bible worker, asked everyone who came today to church that came in because of the station to stand. And so the people that are in the back standing are all who came to church as a result of the television station.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and everywhere we went after that, because this was at the beginning of our time in India last year, every place we went, someone saw Israel and was like, I watch you on TV. So it really does have a lot of impact for people.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Well, and like you said, like Valpari's in a place where not that many people go to because it's hard to get there.
Right.
It's far out in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's what like this ministry can do, is it can go to places all over the place, all over the state, you know, that like where other people don't necessarily go that often. People's focus isn't, where there's no churches and no other work being done. And it can impact people there too.
Right. So one thing I wanted to point out before we go to our next slide is that all of these people watched the show and then they called in to the Chennai station and talked to either Israel's mom or one of the other prayer warriors. And what the prayer warriors do is try to find a local congregation for them to connect with, so that they're not dependent on the TV ministry for their socialization and their fellowship, that they actually get connected with a group of people. And that's what we see here.
Yeah, I think that's really important and special for them to be able to connect with other people in person who like, especially because it feels like it's like, whoa, am I the only person who believes what I believe?
Right.
You know?
Like, yeah, exactly.
So it's really cool for them to be able to connect with with others who are.
So this show is very impactful. So was it easy for Israel to do this show at the beginning?
No, it was kind of complicated. I think for the first 3 months, it wasn't too bad because they had the studio where the channel is located was like, okay, so for 3 months, we can let you borrow the studio and film some shows so you can get ahead and stuff like that. But afterwards, they had to let the other people use the space because there was a lot of shows that run on that channel. So the only other option they had was to use the sanctuary of a local church. Because churches in India usually don't have a bunch of different rooms like in America to like do things in. It's mostly just the sanctuary and maybe like a room in the back. So they have to move all the pews and set up their table and the green screen and the cameras and get them out of their one little closet in the back of the church behind the sanctuary.
And the lights, because I see some umbrella lights too.
They have to get all that stuff out every time they want to film, and then when they're done, put it all back away so that they can use the church for like its normal purposes. So that made things kind of complicated.
And so we saw this on a regular basis, and these people who are with Israel are faithfully pulling out all the equipment, setting it all up, recording some shows, and then putting it all back away. And we said, no, we can't, this is not sustainable. So what did we end up doing?
So this was one of the things that I think came about because of, as you said, the experience that you guys had when you were in India and seeing the results and how things were going, that, you know, as it was growing, it needed to be, you know. So we decided to try and see if we could build them a studio. Where they could have their own space, and they didn't have to set up and tear down, and they could have more room, and we could get them better equipment. And stuff so that they could have higher quality shows and more shows and stuff like that and expand the ministry. But the problem is that land in India is extremely expensive. It's like, you know, $60,000 to $80,000 just for like a small piece of property. And that's a lot of money on top of the amount that it would cost to build the building. And
for those who are watching who are thinking, well, 60 to 80,000 isn't that big of a deal. We build churches here in the U.S. like that, but the income is different. The income level is much lower in India, and so for them trying to raise $60,000 to buy a small piece of land in the city, and then have the cost of building on top of that, that is something that they would not be able to do. But they did find a solution.
So they talked with a church that they had been filming inside, and they agreed to let them build a second story on their rooftop.
Wow.
where they could have the studio. And most buildings in India are made so that they can be built up on.
Right.
They're made out of like concrete blocks and stuff. So
and they don't have pitched roofs.
Right.
Like
they don't
do
have
here.
pitched roofs.
Right.
They're flat. So, I mean, mostly all that they had to do was like add, walls and a ceiling and put, tile down for the floor.
Right.
So it would cost a lot less money.
Right.
So it's going to be about $18,000 with all of the building expenses and the labor.
That is a lot
and
less expensive.
And even to like have money to buy them some new cameras, because I think they just had one camera
right.
to be able to film with, which is not a lot.
No, it's not.
And so, yeah, so to be able to have all those things is about $18,000.
Wow.
So we had an intern this summer, Caleb Sutherland, who came, and so he was starting.
So that was summer of 2019.
Summer of 2019.
So about a year ago.
About a year ago. And so he was going to start working on the project, and I joined him to help write some stories and get some information together to kind of share with people what the need was and what the ministry is doing and stuff like that. And so we put together kind of a plan for how to do that and to kind of help people feel like they were involved in it and stuff like that. And so we started fundraising, and we had JFA Now show, stuff like that to start fundraising. And this is the first time that I have done anything like that before. I had only just started working with Jesus for Asia like a couple months ago, so I was still pretty
before
new.
We started.
Right. Yeah. A couple months before we started.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So a couple months before we started, and so this was like all very new to me. I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. I had experience writing, but not that particular kind of writing. And so, we were praying about it and stuff, and just, trying to do our best in getting stuff out there so that people could see. And at first it seemed like it was a little bit slow, but we kept working anyway because we knew that it was important.
Right.
And so we're just like, we just have to have faith. And so we're just going to do it, and we're going to keep going anyway. And so we got to the point where we were maybe $7,000 or $8,000 raised for the project, which is a good portion of it.
Right.
But still, I think we were a couple $1,000s short of what we had said that we wanted to start building. So we had told people, like we get $9,000 or $10,000, we're going to start building, even though we don't have everything, but we're going to, leap out in faith. And one morning I remember John saying, we don't quite have that much, but I'm going to tell Israel we can start anyway.
Yay!
Which is that's a big move of faith, because that's, we had even less money than we hoped.
And when was that?
I think this was in July, I think, about when that happened. And so we were like, okay, that's fine. And so we all ended up, for some reason, going and having lunch together that day. And as we were in the car, John gets this phone call from somebody who wants to donate $5,000 to the project. And I was just like, what? This is crazy. And it really just hit me in that moment that it's not so much that we feel like we've accomplished the greatest thing, because as much as I, tried my hardest to work on the project, I didn't feel like my skills were like, the best out there. But God works if you put effort into it and if you have faith, and He provides it. And so, He provided the rest of the money for the project, and even more than was needed, which was like super huge blessing. Right.
So for those of you who are watching that contributed to the India TV Studio project, what you're going to see is a result of what you gave. So we're really appreciative of that. So we have this photo here. What is this photo?
This is the first pile of bricks, which doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't maybe seem that exciting, but to me it was extremely exciting because this was something that we put our hearts and souls into. We prayed and prayed and prayed over it. So to see that first like pile, everyone was so excited. The people in India were so excited. It was really cool.
It was a very rejoiced over pile of bricks.
It was a very rejoiced over pile of bricks.
That's right.
So they had a special, you'll see in the next slide, they had a special bricklaying ceremony, and so Israel got to place one of the first bricks on the studio, which was really cool. And you'll see in the next slide that they invited a bunch of the Bible workers to come.
Oh, wow.
Who work in the area, and they also got to participate, and they all like celebrated together.
That is so
really
very,
cool.
very cool. So it went beyond just putting down the very first layer of bricks. And so what do we have here?
Okay, so here they're putting up the support columns that will kind of provide stabilization later on for the roof.
That's a good thing.
And they're starting to lay like the first layers of bricks here, and making,
the bricks are, there are more bricks now.
Yeah, more bricks now.
There's more bricks now.
And this is when it's kind of starting to get together. You can see, the windows and some interior walls, and the little holes in the walls they use in the pieces of wood there, they use to kind of hold up the structure for the roof when they put it on later, which is cool. I'm not sure that I have a picture of the roof when it's
right. But
done,
you can
but that's
kind of
what
see.
they use.
You can kind of see some of the poles sticking out on top, and so that's an easy way to be able to put the pole in the hole, and then it will go all the way across. Okay, so we have a schematic here. So walk us through what this is.
Okay, so the first thing, the front of the church is kind of like where the stairs are at, and that is the first room. The English church is not something that we originally thought of when we were planning to build the TV studio, but as we were, talking with Israel and stuff, and as they were seeing that how much space was actually up there, because the roof is a lot bigger than it looks like it
doesn't
be.
Look that big, I can tell you, but
basically they had a group of people who came to some revival meetings they had, who had been introduced to God through the TV ministry, who spoke English. And these people were wanting to join the church, but they were asking, is there anything that you have for English, like resources? Because I guess they learned that Israel speaks English. And so do you have anything, could we have an English church? And Israel was like, yeah, of course. So they started this English church. And so people from this, who came from the ministry, and a lot of the young people, were really excited to have this English church, but they only have the sanctuary. So they'd have to have their services in the afternoon, which is nice that they can have them, but it does make for a rather long day.
Right.
And so they wanted to be able to give the English church its own space.
Okay.
And so basically, this area is an area that the TV studio will be used for the TV ministry when they have groups, when they have if they wanted to do a Sabbath school panel or something like that. They'll be able to use it for that. But
is it a collapsible wall between the TV studio and the English?
It's a solid wall.
Okay.
But so that part is for areas just things that the set will be changing.
Okay.
And so when they're not using it, they can use it as the church, which is really cool. And then the TV studio is where their permanent set will be. And the permanent set's not that big.
Right.
So that's kind of why they can have that. They wanted to have the two separate spaces with the movable stuff and then the not movable stuff separate.
Right.
So then the next room is the TV studio. And then at the end of the building, then you get into the place, the editing room, and that's where the prayer warriors are going to be working and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, that's very, very cool. So the building was finished, and you had something special happen.
So we weren't necessarily planning to be able to go to see it when it got finished, or at least I wasn't planning on it. But we happened to be doing a mission trip in India 2 weeks in January, and John decided we should stay after and work on some other projects. And so we talked to them and found out that it was going to be finished by around the time that we were going to be there. And so kind of a couple weeks before we left on the trip, we were able to make arrangements to come and see it, which was really, really exciting. Really looked forward to that. So they had a special grand opening ceremony, and they had church leaders and at a local level, at the even the union president was able to come,
right?
And the section presidents and those people were all able to come and join with the church members, and people from the ministry who were affected by the ministry, all able to come and see it opening, which is really,
and
really
that's
cool.
you.
Yeah, that's me. I was really confused when we went up there, because they had everyone kind of on the stairs to open the very first part, which is the English church, and then had people come inside to before getting to the studio.
Yes.
And Israel told me, he's like, you need to go to the top of the stairs. And I was like, okay. So I stood at the top of the stairs. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I get to see this. And so then we went in. One of the church leaders cut the ribbon for the English church.
Right.
And so we walked inside, and so I'm kind of just standing over to the side, and Israel says, no, you need to come to the front. And I'm like, what? And so they were, and so I was just really confused. And they're like, we want you to cut the ribbon. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, and so I'm like, what, that you want me to cut the ribbon? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I didn't know about this. He's like, it's a surprise.
Nice.
But I don't know. It was just so special because I didn't think that I needed to have any acknowledgement for, I don't know, I didn't feel like my part was that important in building the TV studio. I was excited about it, and I felt so blessed to have been a part of it. But I wasn't the one who donated all the money, I felt like my part was relatively small, but they let me.
Well, you were able to cut the ribbon on behalf of everyone who donated, because the donors couldn't be there, but you did that on their behalf.
So and that's just, it was special to be able to just be there and to represent them and to just see it finished.
So
it was really cool.
I'm very happy. We were all excited that you were able to go and be there. And so what is this a picture of?
Okay, so this is the studio space. It looks a little bit blank because by the time that we got there, they just finished laying the tiles on the floor and painting everything. So they didn't have the equipment set up yet. But that's the space where it'll be.
Okay.
So
that's cool. And then this last picture?
Yeah. That's just a picture of everybody who came. It was super packed. And it was just really cool to be able to celebrate, because it was a celebration, not just for the church leaders and not just for the people in the ministry, but for the church members as well. And so many people were so excited to see that it happened.
Right.
And so it was really cool. And we all had a special meal together afterwards. And it was just really special.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you got a chance to do this. And now that we have had this project of getting the studio built and the equipment put in, which it's there, and with the lockdown, it's affected their ability to create new programming. But as soon as the lockdown in India is over, I'm sure they're going to be right back to work. What is the need now?
Well, they have ongoing, support for the the channel. It costs money to put the shows on the channel. And so that's I mean, that's what the main, and for, being able to pay for the equipment a little, as things, as they're trying to continue to grow, and for the editing and everything that needs to be done.
Right. So, so what we're looking for are partners who would like to come alongside and support this ministry in reaching those who speak Tamil, which is more than just, it reaches farther than, as you mentioned, just in the state of Tamil Nadu. It reaches out into other countries where they speak Tamil. And as you mentioned, there is the satellite cost, there are the production costs, there are the staffing cost. And so it was great to be able to pull together the funds to make this happen. But now we need to keep it going because more people need to hear. We need more stories like Jiva and his father and the folks who came to the Valpari church. And so Veronica is going to drop a link in the comments, if she hasn't done so already, to the direct project link for the India TV ministry, which is different from
TV studio.
Funds for the TV studio, but this is for the ongoing operational cost. And so if this is something that you're interested in, we'd love to have you partner with us, and any donation would be great. But if you are interested in making it more of a commitment, that would also be helpful so that they would have the operating costs going on monthly. Well, thank you for coming on the show, because I know that you're more comfortable on the other side of the room talking to people on Facebook, but it's been an exciting year for you to be able to help get the funds and then go to India and then go to see it. And I think that's great. And to meet people who have been affected by the TV studio. And so thank you for coming on and sharing. And we want to thank you for joining us today. And if you are interested in any other Jesus for Asia project, we invite you to go to the jesusforasia.org website, and there you can find information on things that we've talked about in the past and will be talking about again. So we hope that you will join us next Tuesday when we're back here for another episode. Thank you. This has been your Mission Snapshot.